Now this is the account of the prophecy by Galzu to Enlil in a vision given. About Marduk's supremacy it was, how a calamity to survive, a man to choose. After Marduk, Amun became, kingship in the second region disintegrated. Disorder and confusion reigned. After Agade was wiped out, in the first region there was disorder, confusion reigned. In the first region, kingship was in disarray. From cities of gods to cities of man, it moved about. Unig-Ki, Lagash, Urim, and Kish, Isin, and to faraway places, kingship was shifting. Then Enlil, with Anu consulting, kingship in the hands of Ninar deposited. To Urim, in whose soil the divine heavenly bright object remained implanted, kingship for the third time was granted. In Urim, a righteous shepherd of men, Ninar as king appointed. Namu was his name. Equity in the lands Namu established. To violence and strife an end he made. In all the lands prosperity was abundant. It was at that time that in the nighttime Enlil a dream vision had. The image of a man to him appeared, bright and shining like the heaven he was. As he approached and by Enlil's bed stood, Enlil the white-haired Galzu recognized. In his left hand a tablet of lapis lazuli he was holding. The starry heavens on it were designed. By the 12 constellation signs were the heavens divided. To them with his left hand Galzu pointed. From the bull to the ram, Galzu his pointing shifted. 3 times the pointing he repeated. Then, in the dream vision, Galzu spoke up and to Enlil thus said, "The righteous time of benevolence and peace by evildoing and bloodshed will be followed. In 3 celestial portions, the ram of Marduk, the bull of Enlil will replace. One who himself as supreme God has declared supremacy on earth will seize. A calamity as has never before occurred, by fate decreed, will happen. As at the time of the deluge, a righteous and worthy man must be chosen. By him and his seed will civilized man, as by the creator of all intended, be preserved." So did Galzu, the divine emissary, to Enlil in the dream vision say. When Enlil from the nighttime dream vision awakened, there was no tablet beside his bed. Was it an oracle from heaven, or did I in my heart imagine? Enlil to himself wondered. To none of his sons, Ninar among them, nor to Ninlil did he of the dream vision tell. Among the priests in the Nibiru-Ki temple, Enlil of celestial savants inquired. Tirhu, an oracle priest, to him the high priest indicated. Of Ibru, of Arbakhad, the grandson, he was descended. 6th generation of Nibiru-Ki priests he was. With the royal daughters of Urim's kings, they were intermarried. Get yourself to Ninar's temple in Urim, the heavens for celestial time observe. 72 years is the count of a celestial portion. The passage of 3 thereof carefully record. So did Enlil to Tirhu the priest say. The prophesied time he made him count. While Enlil the dream vision and its portents pondered, Marduk from land to land went. Of his supremacy the people he was telling, to followers gain was his purpose. In the lands of the upper sea and the lands of Ki-Engi bordering, Nabu, Marduk's son, was the people inciting. To seize the 4th region was his plan. Between the dwellers of the west and the dwellers of the east, clashes were occurring. Kings' hosts of warriors formed. Caravans ceased going. The walls of cities were raised. What Galzu had foretold indeed is happening, Enlil to himself said. Upon Tirhu and his sons of worthy lineage descended, Enlil set his gaze. This is the man to choose. By Galzu indicated, Enlil to himself said. To Ninar, without the dream vision revealing, Enlil to his son thus said, in the land between the rivers, whence Archbakad had come, a city like Urim establish. A home abode away from Urim, let it for you in Nergal be. In its midst, a temple shrine establish. The priest prince Tirhu in charge thereof appoint. By his father's word abiding, Ninar in the land of Archbakad, the city of Haran established. To be high priest in its temple shrine, Tirhu he sent, his family with him. When 2 celestial portions out of the prophesied 3 were completed, did Tirhu to Haran go. At that time, Namu, the joy of Urim, in the western lands from his chariot fell and died. On the throne of Urim, his son Shulgi him succeeded. Full of vile and eager for battles, Shulgi was. In Nibiru-Ki, himself high priest he anointed. In Unig-Ki, the joys of Inanna's vulva he sought. Warriors from the mountain lands to Ninar, not beholden, in his army he enlisted. With their help, the western lands he overran. The sanctity of Mission Control Center he ignored. In the sacred 4th region his foot he set. King of the 4 regions himself he declared. About the defilements Enlil was angered. About the invadings Enki to Enlil spoke. The rulers of your region all bounds have exceeded, Enki to Enlil bitterly said. Of all the troubles, Marduk is the fountainhead, Enlil to Enki retorted. Still the dream vision to himself keeping, Enlil to Tirhu his attention turned. Upon Ibru-Um, the eldest son of Tirhu, Enlil cast the choosing gaze. A princely offspring, valiant, with priestly secrets acquainted, Ibru-Um was. To protect the sacred places, the chariot's ascents and descents enable, Enlil, Ibru-Um to go commanded. No sooner did Ibru-Um from Haran depart, than in that city Marduk arrived. The defilements he too had observed, as birth pains of a new order he them deemed. From Haran, on the threshold of Shumer, his final thrust he planned. From Haran, at the edge of Ishkur's domain situated, the raising of armies he directed. When 24 earth years of his sojourn in Haran had passed, Marduk to the other gods, of whomever descended, tearfully an appeal made, confessing his transgressions, but insisting on his lordship. To them he thus said, O gods of Haran, O great gods who judge, learn my secrets. As I girdle my belt, my memories I remember. I am the divine Marduk, a great god. In my domains as Ra am I known. For my sins to exile I went, to the mountains have I gone, in many lands I wandered. From where the sun rises to where the sun sets I went, to the land of Ishkur I came. 24 years in the midst of Haran I nested, an omen in its temple I sought. Until when? About my lordship and omen in the temple I asked. Your days of exile are completed. To me the oracle in the temple said, O great gods, who the fates determine, let me to my city set my course. My temple, Isegil, as an everlasting abode establish. A king in Babili install. In my temple house let all the Anunnaki gods assemble. My covenant accept. So did Marduk, confessing and appealing to the other gods his coming announce. By his appeal for their submission, the Anunnaki gods were disturbed and alarmed. To a great assembly counsel to take, Enlil them all summoned. All the Anunnaki leaders in Nibiru-Ki gathered. Enki and Marduk's brothers also came. About the happenings, all of them were agitated. Opposed to Marduk and Nabu they all were. In the Council of the great gods, accusations were rampant. Recriminations filled the chamber. What is coming, no one can prevent. Let us Marduk's supremacy accept, Enki alone counseled. If the time of the ram is coming, let Marduk of the bond heaven earth deprive, Enlil in anger proposed, to obliterate the place of the celestial chariots. All except Enki agreed. To use, therefore, the weapons of terror Nergal suggested. Only Enki was opposed. Of the decision, earth to Anu, the words pronounced. Anu to earth, the words repeated. What was destined to be, by your decision to undo, will fail. So did Enki say as he departed. The evil thing to carry out, Ninurta and Nergal were selected. Now this is the account of how fate to destiny did lead, how step by step, some in long forgotten times taken, the great calamity made happen. Now let it for all time be recorded and remembered. When the decision to use the weapons of terror was made, to himself Enlil 2 secrets kept. To no one before the terrible decision was taken did Enlil the secret of Galzu's dream vision reveal. To no one until the fateful decision was made did Enlil his knowledge of the terror's hiding place disclose. When, despite all protestations, the council to use the weapons of terror permitted, when Enki, angry and distraught, the council chamber left, in his heart was Enki smiling. Only he knew where the weapons were hidden. So did Enki think. For it was he, before Enlil to earth had come, who with Obgal in the place unknown the weapons did hide. That Obgal to the exiled Enlil the place disclosed, that to Enki was unknown. When Enki this second secret heard, in his heart a wishful thought he harbored, that after such a long sojourn the weapons' terror would have evaporated. Little did Enki expect the long sojourn a calamity as never before known on earth to cause. Thus it was that without Enki needing, Enlil to the 2 heroes the hiding place disclosed. Those 7 weapons of terror in the mountain they abide, to them Enlil said. In a cavity inside the earth they dwell, with the terror to clad them is required. Then the secret of how the weapons from their deep sleep awaken, Enlil to them did reveal. Before the 2 sons, one of Enlil and one of Enki, to the hiding place departed, Enlil to them words of forewarning said. Ere the weapons are used, by the Anunnaki must the chariot's place be vacated. The cities must be spared, the people must not perish. In his skyship, Nergal to the hiding place soared. Ninurta by his father was delayed. A word to his son alone Enlil wished to say, a secret to him alone reveal. About the prophecy of Galzu and the choosing of Ibru-Um, to Ninurta he told. Hot-headed is Nergal, make sure that the cities are spared, that Ibru-Um, Abraham, is forewarned. To Ninurta Enlil said. When Ninurta at the weapons place arrived, Nergal from the cavity had already brought them out. As their Mies, from the long slumber he awakened, to each one of the 7 Nergal a task name gave. The one without rival, the first weapon he called. The blazing flame he named the second. The one who with terror crumbles he called the third. Mountain melter, the fourth he called. Wind that the rim of the world seeks, he named the fifth. The one who above and below no one spares was the sixth. The seventh with monstrous venom was filled. Vaporizer of living things, he called it. With Anu's blessing were the 7 to Nergal and Ninurta given, therewith to destruction wreak. When Ninurta at the place of the weapons of terror arrived, to destroy and annihilate was Nergal ready. I shall kill the son. I will annihilate the father. Nergal with vengeance was shouting. The lands they covet will vanish. The sinning cities I will upheaval. So did Nergal, enraged, announce. Valiant Nergal, will you the righteous with the unrighteous destroy? So did Ninurta, his comrade, ask. The instructions of Enlil are clear. To the selected targets the way I will lead. You behind me will follow. The decision of the Anunnaki is to me known. Nergal to Ninurta said, for 7 days and 7 nights the signal from Enlil the two awaited. As was his intention, when his waiting was completed, Marduk to Babili returned. In the presence of his followers, with weapons armed, his supremacy he declared. 1,736 was the count of earth years then. On that day, on that fateful day, Enlil to Ninurta the signal sent. To Mount Mashu Ninurta departed. Behind him Nergal followed. The mount and the plain, in the heart of the fourth region, Ninurta from the skies surveyed. With a squeezing in his heart, to Nergal a sign he gave. Keep off, to him he signaled. Then the first terror weapon from the skies Ninurta let loose. The top of the Mount Mashu, with a flash it sliced off. The mount's innards, in an instant it melted. Above the place of the celestial chariots, the second weapon he unleashed. With the brilliance of 7 suns, the plain's rocks into a gushing wound were made. The earth shook and crumbled. The heavens, after the brilliance, were darkened. With burnt and crushed stones was the plain of the chariots covered. Of all the forest that the plain had surrounded, only tree stems were left standing. It is done. Ninurta from the skyship, his black divine bird, words shouted. The control that Marduk and Nabu so coveted, of it they are forever deprived. Then, to emulate Ninurta, Nergal desired to be Era, the annihilator. His heart him urged. Following the king's highway, to the verdant valley of the 5 cities he flew. In the verdant valley where Nabu, the people, was converting, Nergal, as a caged bird, to squash him planned. Over the 5 cities, one after the other, Era, upon each from the skies a terror weapon sent. The 5 cities of the valley he finished off. To desolation they were overturned. With fire and brimstones they were upheavaled. All that lived there to vapor was turned. By the awesome weapons where mountains toppled, where the sea waters were barred, the bolt broke open. Down into the valley the sea waters poured. By the waters was the valley flooded. When upon the city's ashes the waters poured, steam to the heavens was rising. It is done, Era and his skyship shouted. In Nergal's heart there was no more vengeance. Surveying their evil handiwork, the 2 heroes, by what they saw, were puzzled. By a darkening of the skies where the brilliances followed, then a storm to blow began. Swirling with a dark cloud, gloom from the skies an evil wind carried. As the day wore on, the sun on the horizon with darkness it obliterated. At nighttime, a dreaded brilliance skirted its edges. The moon, at its rising, it made disappear. When dawn the next morning came, from the west, from the upper sea, a storm wind began blowing. The dark brown cloud, eastward it directed, toward the settled lands did the cloud spread. Wherever it reached, death to all that lives, mercilessly it delivered. From the valley of no pity, by the brilliance spawned, towards Shumer the death was carried. To Enlil and Enki, Ninurta and Nergal the alarm sounded. Unstoppable the evil wind, death to all delivers. The alarm Enlil and Enki to the gods of Shumer transmitted. Escape! Escape! To them all they cried out. Let the people disperse! Let the people hide! From their cities the gods did flee, like frightened birds from their nests escaping they were. The people of the lands by the evil storm's hand were clutched. Futile was the running. Stealthy was the death. Like a ghost, the fields and cities it attacked. The highest walls, the thickest walls, like floodwaters it passed. No door could shut it out, no bolt could turn it back. Those who behind locked doors hid inside their houses like flies were felled. Those who to the streets fled, in the streets were their corpses piled up. Cough and phlegm the chests filled, the mouths with spittle and foam filled up. As the evil wind the people unseen engulfed, their mouths were drenched with blood. Slowly over the lands the evil wind blew, from west to east over the plains and mountains it traveled. Everything that lived behind it was dead and dying. People and cattle all alike perished. The waters were poisoned. In the fields all vegetation withered. From Eridu in the south to Sapar in the north did the evil wind the land overwhelm. Babili, where Marduk's supremacy declared, by the evil wind was spared.